Founded in 1994, Bangalore-based Dovetail Furniture has been creating shop fits for all categories and formats in the retail sector. S. Sundar, Managing Director of Dovetail, tells us about trends in shop fits, working for local to global brands, Dovetail's new experience center, and more.
The first innovation actually is this space. What we felt was when they come to see the concept, they need to see it in sort of the ideal conditions. There's a decent lighting, and you feel like you're looking at it as close in a real situation than in a factory floor or something where it's not. You don't get the real idea. When you work with a local brand, you're largely dealing with the owner out there, and you have to understand what's in his mind, right? So you try and figure out what's in his mind. He gives you references and all that, and then sometimes what he has in mind may not be something which you've done before, but you have to work it out so that it sort of syncs with what he's thinking. He likes it, and then you have to structurally work it out so that it's really robust, because local retailers really if you do 10 garments on a rack for say an international player, there would be like 10 times that for a local thing. So it was doing the prototype, getting the approval, getting the finishes right, and then working out whole thing out within the cost that they wanted it. That was the challenge. And when we work with a national, when we worked with a national brand, there we are sort of involved. We were involved at the concept level, where there is a designer, and the designer has an idea. For example, he had an idea of a screen where it was like a translucent partition, but it would have also accessories on one side. So his concept had he thought of a certain way of making it, which was not really feasible out here. So we came out with a different way of making it, and which worked. So we had an extremely precise, huge screens, about 10 feet by 8 feet metal screens, which were, you could see through them and you could hook these accessories on that. While when you work with a global brand, then it's pretty much you do what they ask you to do. You're working with the thing, but there are many operational issues that come there. Things are getting scratched. Sometimes that material is extremely expensive, right? So for a global sportswear brand which we're working with, we had these panels which were in metal and they were getting scratched. So they found this material called regrind rubber, and they wanted to know whether we could actually source and do it with that so that the abrasion would be less. So we worked with them in developing this material, sourcing the vendors and changing the whole thing to do that. And there were other panels which were in solid wood, and that wood was difficult to get and it was expensive. So we changed that to veneer. So little things you do for them, and sometimes when the thing works, they adopt it with other vendors and in other places also, because it makes sense. It wasn't the case long back when the brands were just very they wouldn't make changes, but now I think cost is an issue, speed is an issue. Outside India, where I've seen a discussion at a concept level where the interior designer is there who's designing the store, the retailer's merchandising team is there because they know how they want the inside to be, the store fit manufacturer is there, and they also have a specific expert for installation who can tell you whether this is modular, is it good, should the installation be correct? And everybody sits around the table as equals, comfortably, And that, the concept is there, the first prototypes are made, and they're discussing it. Now, that's the ideal way to go about it. You get there right in the beginning, at the concept level. When that happens, the overall benefit to the retailer is huge, because right at the initial point, you can see maybe that something is too voluminous. It has to be broken down because there will be transportation issues, or a certain material will be difficult to get, and there may be production related issues, or something is just costing too much and you don't really need to do that. You can put something else, because otherwise what happens, say a concept is done and then a store is rolled out and then it doesn't fit into the budget. This is a usual thing, and then there are desperate changes to cut costs, and sometimes those changes affect the concept. You're making the wrong kind of changes. So if you have the budget in the beginning, you have the concept in the beginning, and everybody comes to the table, you can evolve something which is ideal, which suits everything. I just think if you work with a vendor right from the beginning, if there's a comfort level from the beginning, then things will come out much better. Right now, sometimes what happens is either a brand works with 3 vendors at the same time, which is a lot of coordination to do, or they work in isolation till a design is completely developed and then give it out for manufacture, where there's not much you can do in that case. So I would tell retailers, make your choice in the beginning, decide which person you're working with, and then work wholeheartedly with that.